Over 80,000 people are sick, and the coronavirus has killed thousands more across the globe. Factories and government agencies are shut down amid widespread infections in China. The media says it's spreading like a wildfire. Widespread panic is affecting population centers across America. Families are preparing for the worst, and the news being fed from China is some of the worst, most disturbing news circulating in the American media. The novel coronavirus is the newest news craze to hit the American public, and here are the questions you need to stop and ask. Commercial property worth less than $1 million, but you can't find a lender to give you a loan term longer than 5 years. You got a high interest rate private lending loan for 5 years with a balloon payment at the end, and you keep having to pay broker fees and lender fees every time that you have to refinance that private loan. I create entertaining videos, and I'm committed to helping you grow your empire with mine. When is the last time your lender said he wanted to grow with you? My name is AP McKinney with Kinney Media, Arizona Housing Journal, and Rally Home Mortgage. What does your lender do for you?
What is the coronavirus and why is it so dangerous?
What kind of economic impact will the coronavirus have?
What does the average American have to worry about?
Over 80,000 people have been infected, and at least 2,700 people have died in just 3 short months.
The virus has infected the amount of people in a medium-sized American city. China has shut down factories, requiring employees to use paid vacation time to help them through this difficult period.
Exports out of Wuhan, China have come to a virtual halt, and according to the Chinese media, this virus is spreading at an astronomical rate and even shares similarities to HIV.
News outlets in America are discussing the possibility of government and business closures. Chinese media footage shows drones and robots spraying entire cities with viral disinfecting gases.
So, what is this coronavirus and why is it so dangerous?
And why is this coronavirus the new hype? Here's what Dr. Laura Gross had to say on CBS San Francisco.
Doctors across the Bay Area are fielding a lot of calls and concerns about coronavirus. And joining me now is Dr. Laura Gross with Stanford Healthcare to kind of get us the right information, which is so crucial right now. Why don't we start from the beginning, though? What exactly is coronavirus? How does it spread?
Okay, so coronavirus is not a new virus. Coronaviruses have been around for a long time. They were first discovered by scientists in the 1960s, but they've been around before that.
Talk about some of the signs and symptoms. Okay. What are they so we can distinguish between that and, say, the flu?
Right. Okay, good question. So we're still learning about the coronavirus, but it is a respiratory virus that is similar to the flu, actually, in that it causes coughing, runny nose, sometimes shortness of breath, fever, very similar to the flu. It's actually interesting that the winter colds that go around are, like every winter, coronavirus is 35% of those viruses. So not the novel coronavirus, but the other coronaviruses that infect humans. They cause the common cold.
While China will suffer from its halt in manufacturing production out of Wuhan, China is a $15.4 trillion a year economy with $5.4 trillion in debt. The United States, on the other hand, is a $21 trillion a year economy with $22 trillion in debt. And while the coronavirus has negatively affected the Chinese economy 1.2%, that's $180 billion, the American stock market has lost at least $6 trillion, which is much bigger than $180 billion lost in China. With 15% of American gross domestic product, or GDP, from the US manufacturing in China, how was China able to knock off $6 trillion from the American stock market within 3 days?
With scientific data proving coronavirus is less harmful than SARS, MERS, and the flu, should we be halting travel and trade with China, or is this all a hype to disrupt the global economy?
Is China exaggerating the coronavirus to disrupt public confidence and attack the American economy?
Again, with 15% of American GDP resulting from our products being manufactured in China, did the Chinese government and media know that exaggerated news could have a greater economic impact than an actual serious health concern? It seems like the media is contradicting itself.
On the same network that are drawing alarm to the masses about the coronavirus, what is the best way that they say to protect yourself against the coronavirus?
A mask to prevent yourself from getting sick isn't helpful.
So what is helpful? What would be your top recommendation? I think I know what you're going to say. Wash the hands.
Wash the hands.
Stay home if you're sick. Wash your hands frequently, especially when out in public, or use hand sanitizer.
But with regard to this, what would you do to protect yourself from the flu? Avoid sick people, wash your hands often, try not to touch surfaces, disinfect areas that may have been contaminated.
Wet your hands, use liquid soap. Lather your hands and rub them round.
Doctors being interviewed on every major news network are telling people the best way to prevent the illness is to wash your hands for 20 seconds in hot soapy water and don't put your fingers in your eyes, nose, and mouth.
What's more interesting is that we are hit with coronavirus variants every single year. In fact, the other variants of the coronavirus are responsible for 35% of the colds that we get in the United States of America.
Coronavirus is 35% of those viruses.
Are we reacting without understanding all the variables, or are we listening to non-medically educated journalists? Rather than the doctors we should be listening to.
It is a respiratory virus that is similar to the flu, actually, in that it causes coughing, runny nose, sometimes shortness of breath.
Well, CNN has a doctor who actually happens to be a news reporter, and he seems to know all the answers, and he's even a subject matter expert. Let's go ahead and listen to Dr. Gupta real quick.
Sanjay, this has Americans very worried. I mean, I hear people talking about it all the time. They want answers. One of the things that I know you have been wrestling with what the answer is, how is it spread? How do people catch the coronavirus?
Well, I think the primary way that this is spread is from somebody who is sick and coughs and sneezes and creates these respiratory droplets that are full of virus. Someone else breathes those droplets in, and that's primarily how they get ill. But we also know that it can stay on surfaces for up to days, and people can touch those surfaces and possibly infect themselves. And we also know, and again, I talked to Dr. Redfield about this in detail, that even someone who's not sick, who has either minimal symptoms or no symptoms, can also shed the virus from their body and potentially be contagious as a result of that. The primary driver is still going to be sick people, but there are these other ways that it can spread as well.
Now, there is one problem with this doctor. He's not an epidemiologist, he's a neurosurgeon. So what does your nervous system and its relation to your brain have anything to do with infectious diseases? And why is Dr. Gupta giving medical advice on a topic he's not qualified to speak about?
It's like a car accident lawyer. You know, your local, you got rear-ended collision lawyer?
I'm going to talk about how much whiplash is worth in a personal injury case. Watch the entire video so you can see all the factors that affect the value of a whiplash case and to see actual settlements. Jay-Z helps a Florida injury law firm.
Giving advice on corporate law to T-Mobile and Sprint about merging. These two types of laws are not remotely related to each other.
So why is Dr. Gupta giving advice on something he's not qualified to give advice on? If this virus isn't as harmful as is being portrayed, then why are people in full panic? Could it be how the information is being distributed? Why have we taken more measures on limiting Chinese imports than with SARS, another strain of coronavirus that struck in 2002 and 2003?
Severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, emerged in southern China in late 2002 and disappeared within 2 years. It sickened about 8,000 people worldwide and had a mortality rate of nearly 10%. And then there was MERS, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome of 2012. Although it affected a much smaller group, about 2,500 patients, the symptoms were more serious and the death rate much higher, nearly 35%.
And China completely mishandled the information on SARS. Was China incompetent this time? Let's take a look.
SARS hit the Guangdong province in 2002, yet we saw 0 factory shutdowns in a time where China did not have nearly as much financial consequences. And with a recent trade agreement with the United States, was China trying to use the media coverage around the coronavirus epidemic, as the South China Morning Post puts it, to delay meeting trade deal goals. I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat. I'm not saying that they made some military-grade virus stolen from a secret lab. This is crazy alt-right nonsense. What I am saying is that the Chinese government may be taking advantage of the coronavirus by creating media coverage that is exaggerating the effects of the coronavirus. They are providing us with videos exaggerating numbers, robots and drones disinfecting entire streets and cities, empty airports, halting manufacturing, and now you're not going to get your next iPhone or Nissan.
The timing of the outbreak was a double whammy for China's economy. The country was in the midst of an ongoing trade war with the United States that was already slowing down growth. It also took hold before the busy Lunar New Year travel season, when hundreds of millions of people normally travel home to celebrate with their families. At least 10 Chinese cities were locked down in late January, as authorities attempted to contain the new virus, leading to the cancellation of flights, events, and the closure of venues.
And while corporations have learned the downside of relying on China for manufacturing, China could choke America and her allies on supplies that are made in China.
And let's take a look at this. GM, Nissan, Hyundai are halting productions on cars because Chinese factories, which create the parts for these cars, are no longer creating these parts. So in Hubei, the province where Wuhan is at, they produced 2.42 million vehicles in 2018, accounting for about 10% of China's total automotive output.
General Motors, Honda, and Peugeot have joint venture factories there. More than 500 car part manufacturers operate in Wuhan. Yet what the world believes is that the entire country of China has shut down.
Part of this is most definitely economic, and with Americans being notoriously squeamish about diseases, they may have gotten the desired results. Has the Chinese government-owned media been used as a weapon to cripple at the American markets by exaggerating the novel coronavirus to the world and displaying excessive use of dramatic stories to scare the international masses? Well, here are the facts, and a lot of these facts will be asked in the form of a question.
We did less to prevent SARS and MERS from reaching a pandemic status, yet they were substantially more deadly. Why has the coronavirus infected more people in China than SARS? The biggest key factor is population density.
SARS had an outbreak in the Guangdong province of China, with its most dense area having 2,000 people per square kilometer. Now, let's compare that with Wuhan, where it struck with 90,000 people per square kilometer. So that has a big impact on the amount of people that it affected.
It happens to be that Wuhan is one of China's manufacturing leaders, but isn't close to the largest economic powerhouse. This is where your computer memory chips and auto parts are made. What is more interesting is while Guangdong may have less population density, it is the most populous province in China with 113.45 million people according to national data of China.
Guangdong also produces the largest economic activities in the entire nation of China. Guangdong has a $1.22 trillion a year economy, yet Wuhan only has a $22.4 billion a year economy.
The American stock market lost $6 trillion in just a few days, by far a bigger impact than $180 billion lost in China from the coronavirus. Why is the news from China about the coronavirus more dramatic than when SARS broke out in 2002?
With the halt of production of Chinese goods from Wuhan, is China intentionally using the coronavirus outbreak to its advantage by providing misleading and exaggerative information to directly affect the American economy? The evidence seems to suggest that China is flexing the economic power to the world while hiding behind a virus no more dangerous than the flu.
Oh, did I forget to mention that we just lost $6 trillion on the stock market while the virus has resulted in $180 billion in losses to China?
According to hospitals and healthcare professionals, scared masses are buying up the face masks in bulk and has left hospitals and medical facilities caring for those infected in America facing shortages of those basic medical supplies. Everybody is panicking.
Remember guys, wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds and don't touch your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. Stop buying face masks. You don't need to buy them, and chill the F out. If you're willing to have unprotected sex and buy drugs from people you shouldn't trust, then you for sure shouldn't stress out about this famous novel coronavirus.
This is AP McKinney with Kinney Media. Guys, please don't die.